Hello my students. Today I am going to talk about mate selection, the principles and theories. In earlier classes we have discussed examples. Today we are going to discuss about principles and theories regarding mate selection. In this lesson what we are going to learn? We are going to learn or know the batsman's principle. The batsman's principle is one of the leading principle of mate selection. We are also going to learn Fisher's runaway model, and Fisher says another hypothesis which is called Fisher's sexy son hypothesis. This is Fisher's sexy son hypothesis. This is also we are going to discuss. We are also going to discuss Zahavi's handicap hypothesis. So all these four different principles and hypotheses we are going to discuss in this lesson. In the previous class, we have discussed sexual dimorphism. Why this kind of sexual dimorphism? We have discussed that this dimorphism is to ensure the mate selection. It is a kind of a strategy through which the mate selection takes place. We have also discussed that the mating systems that influence the mate selection, monogamy, polygamy, and promiscuity, depending on the situation and need of the male or the female for growing up their offspring, they follow monogamy, polygamy, and promiscuity. In all these practices, sexual dimorphism, whereas the influencing or attracting the male or female or following a mating system, either monogamy or polygamy or promiscuity, the objective behind is that to get higher reproductive success. So to explain that mate selection to ensure higher reproductive success, these examples that we have already discussed in the previous class, these examples are arranged or analyzed under some principles and hypotheses. When I will be discussing these principles, you will remember that we have already discussed these examples, but now difference is that these we are going to discuss under some hypotheses and principles. Say for example the peacock's tail. This we have discussed as a character, extravagant male character, which it maintains without having getting any advantage for the survivability. For example, if we talk about Darwin's fitness, it is not getting any kind of fitness from this tail, this ornamented tail. So its survival becomes sometimes challengeable, even though it maintains this tail, beautiful tail. The reason is to get the attention of the female and to ensure the reproductive success. So this was explained by Bateman's principle. The general rule of the Bateman's principle is that males are promiscuous and females are choosy. There he said that the sex which invests the most in offspring will become a limiting resource over which the other sex competes. So the sex which invests the most in offspring, say for if you consider male and female, these two sexes are there. If the female invests most in offspring, this becomes a limiting factor, resource over which the other sex competes. Experimented on Drosophila for a few weeks, and he found that yes, where the males are preferred, or the males which are able to fertilize the eggs of the females are not looking at other males. So this is what the Bateman concluded, that males are promiscuous but females are choosy. They are not every time going to going after every male. They are very selectively going after a male which can give them some kind of support, and they can invest something on the growth of the offspring. One example that we understood and we already discussed is the gametic investment. Gametic investment means the sperms in case of male are consequently cheaper, whereas the eggs of females are not cheaper. So males can easily produce enough sperm to fertilize all of the female's egg, but the reverse is not true. Females cannot produce enough eggs to fertilize the sperms. So this is the predisposition that females it has to be very careful for investment before investing its egg, and also since the egg is cheaper, egg is very expensive, the outcome of the egg, the offspring, need to survive. They cannot just lose the offspring. So the parental investment becomes a criteria at this point. So female has to think about all these things. Therefore, the mating opportunity limits male reproductive success. The females may not choose everyone. It chooses the best one among many males, and there comes the reproductive limit, mating opportunity limit of male. Similarly, the fecundity limits female reproductive success. A female cannot reproduce every time or every sperm. The female number of birds are regulated, and that is the limiting factor of the female for reproductive success. So you can understand, one way the male has enough and abundant sperms it can invest, but it may not get chance to spend all this abundant sperm because the females are going after some specific selection, because they require, they need that their eggs should be invested such a way it should not go to some unfruitful effort. So male may not get chance to mate with every female. That is the limiting factor, and there comes the mate selection. The example is explained here. Here you can see the female has 3 choices, and it may not go to every possible choice. Out of these 3 choices, it can go to any one which it feels the best for its reproduction, because the female has to take care of the offsprings and to maintain many responsibilities after the birth of the offsprings. Of this, the pregnancy, the female has to go for pregnancy, then caring of the offsprings, nutrition of the offsprings, feeding of the offsprings. So all these different directions the female has to think about, and the male which can give better attention to all these kind of needs will be chosen by the female. So here the male has to compete to get a female to get selected by the female. So it has to maintain some extravagant character, some qualities to influence the female. However, in case of males, they may go for multiple females to ensure reproductive success. This is to avoid the selection, this kind of selection where they have to influence a female. If the male is able and it has all good genes that can influence the opposite sex, it may go to multiple reproductive success. So that way it can ensure the survivability of its offsprings. However, in many cases there is some reverse sex role reversal. In general, the female takes care of offsprings, or it feeds, it it generally maintains, gives maximum parental effort to bring up the offsprings. However, as I told you, there are some organisms, the rule is different, reversal. Say for example, pipefish, seahorse, and sea dragons. They belong to a family in which the males get pregnant. Pregnant in the sense that the female lays the eggs in the pouch, or the male of this species, they carry the eggs and the sperms in some structure in the body. There it is fertilized and the young ones are grown up. During this period, the male takes care of all the needs of these offsprings. So the male performs the majority of the parental care, while the females are highly ornamented and territorially aggressive, and they leave the male and goes for the other males. In the last class, we discussed about Jacanas, one more example of sex reversal disease, in addition to the previous fishes. So, this most Jacanas species exhibit harem polyandry. It means the females mate with multiple males and then leave eggs with the males. And the males, what they do, they take care of the young ones. This is the example of sex role reversal in birds. The number of males a female mate determine her reproductive success. So, the number of males a female mate determines her reproductive success, because it doesn't care for the eggs. So the female may reproduce as much as possible with the mates, with the males, and with every male it can leave a number of eggs. So the reproductive success, the chances of survivability of the offsprings are increased. So again, another example of polyandry is the male, when the males are very limited. It means a female may go for multiple males when a particular quality or some particular qualities are not available in a single male. So this often occurs when low offspring survival requires male parental care. In a particular partner or male, if the parental care is very poor, female may go for another male. So this way the polyandry takes place where the male is a limiting resource. So what is the consequence? Here the sexual selection is stronger on females than males. Female has to influence the males to become a partner, so that they become a partner and take care of the young ones. So there the sexual selection is very strongly it strongly acts upon the females than males. Some examples are red-necked phalarope, spotted sandpiper, and saddleback tamarins. So these are the examples. There are many more examples you'll find. So these are only few examples. Again, let us come back to the peacock's tail. This is a beautiful ornamented structure. So the question comes, again let us go back to the same question, why this structure? Let us discuss the same character of the peacock tail with some other principles. This is not only the peacock tail, there are some other birds, they have also very beautiful ornaments. And one of those birds is long-tailed widowbird. The males of this long-tailed widowbird, they are having their long tail. That is why called long-tailed widowbird. Some biologists, they did some experiments. So for example, Anderson in 1982 did some experiment. In their experiment, what they did, they introduced one unnaturally long-tailed widow bird with the naturally long-tailed widow bird. When they introduced this unnaturally long-tailed widow bird, they observed that the females who were nesting with this naturally long-tailed widow bird, they left this long-tailed widow bird and went with this unnaturally long-tailed widow bird and start nesting with that bird, this long-tailed widow bird. What does it mean? It means the long-tailed widow bird, they have this ornament, the long tail, and it is a feature that attracts or influences the female. And in another example, they did, they experimented with the birds, widow birds with different tail length. This is a normal long-tailed widow bird, and these are widow bird with different length of the tail. When they when they experiment, they observed that these birds, they are with lower number of nests compared to this long-tailed normal widow bird. It means their reproductive success is very low, comparatively low than this long-tailed widow bird. So this particular ornament is helping the bird to get greater reproductive success. These two examples can be explained by the Fisher's runaway hypothesis. This hypothesis is based on the male ornaments or similar features in animals. Ronald Fisher proposed this runaway hypothesis, where he discussed the traits which are conferring a survival advantage. He said that mate choice originally evolved to facilitate adaptive choice for traits conferring a survival advantage. Selection of mate, why it is? It is because the survival of that particular species may be facilitated. Survival in what sense? To compete with the situation, so that it can pass through the variables, competing factors in the environment and survive and give the next generation of offspring. But when once female preference evolved, any gene or genes that conferred survival advantage but compromised attractiveness, this point is very interesting. If it is conferring survival advantage but compromised attractiveness, would not be passed on because surviving males would fail to mate. Why they fail to mate? Because they are not chosen. They may not be chosen by the opposite sex. If it is male, it may not be chosen by the female, because there is no attractiveness. In longer term, that particular species may not survive. There, the importance of these male ornaments come. They may not give immediate survival advantage, but they give a chance to ensure reproductive success, so that in longer run the species can continue with its offsprings. This is an explanation of Fisher's runaway model, where tail lengths are discussed under three different stages. The first case, it is a survival advantage. Means this bird can fly, it can defend, it can escape from predators, it can easily escape from any kind of danger. So with a shorter tail length, this is very advantageous. It is a kind of advantage for the animal to compete with the immediate factors of the environment and survive. They can survive. When it grows, or when it gets a kind of a tail, a longer tail, it gets an attention of the females and a chance to reproduce. Thus, what does it mean? It means it gets a survival advantage as well as a female choice. This moderate length of tail gives it a chance to mate with the females, and also since it can manage with this tail, it can survive. It is getting an advantage of survival. But when it is longer, it becomes elongated, longer, it will attract females more than the previous length. So these males, more than these males. So there they can get more chances for reproduction. Means the reproductive success will increase, but the survival advantage will decrease. That is what the fitness due to survival will decrease, because they cannot escape. They cannot escape or defend them from the predators or some other competitors. However, they can get the selection from the females, and they can get a chance to reproduce, and their species, this species or the family from this male can continue. That is what called survival selection and sexual selection. Together it makes the total male fitness, survival as well as the mating. So this mating is the fitness, it is increased. Overall the fitness is increased. This is what the Fisher's runaway model says. Another interesting hypothesis of Fisher is that Fisher's sexy son hypothesis. There, in this hypothesis, it is adopted, it is accepted that the female generally prefers a beautiful or handsome male, so that the offspring may have some attractiveness. This is required because the offspring has to get selection, has to be chosen by the females to ensure the reproductive success, so that the race or the particular family may continue or species may continue. So a female's ideal mate choice among potential mates is one whose genes will produce male offspring with the best chance of reproductive success. Best chance means the best character it will pass to the offspring, and the reproductive success will be increased. This is what is called Fisher's sexy son hypothesis. Another very popular hypothesis is that Zahavi's handicap hypothesis. He proposed that the handicap character is actually an advantage for those animals. For example, a tail of the peacock. Extravagant male traits are costly to develop and maintain. This is what the point he highlighted. The trait is extravagant. It means it is additional, and it is having a separate significance, importance, and it is not common in all other members. So the member which is having this extravagant trait, it has to maintain it, and this maintenance demand a cost. That is why he said it is costly to develop and maintain this kind of extravagant traits. Choosing a mate with good genes requires an honest signal of genetic quality. So when a female it selects a mate or it chooses a mate, it has to understand that there are some good characters. It has to get the signal that there are some good characters in this male, good genes in this male, which are of the preferred characters that the female is looking for. So the honest signal is needed from the male to make the female understand that the good genes are there in this male. And these extravagant characters, when these are maintained, it signals that this male is having good genes because it can maintain such an extravagant traits in its body. The generalization is that only males in good condition, those with good genes, will be able to fully develop and maintain an ornament or an extravagant trait. So this is a signal, honest signal. That is what Zahavi wanted to highlight. And note that this handicap itself need not be heritable. The handicap, the character itself is not required to be heritable, but the effort that the male put on maintaining that particular character is the fitness of the male, and that is heritable, and that comes from good genes, that comes from the good traits that is inherent in that male. How to understand? Say for example, bright color honestly signals immunocompetence. So it is a character. Bright color is a kind of a trait, and it means that the animal with bright color is having immunopotency and the parasites and disease resistance. So this is an honest signal for the female. And also the conditions dependent handicap. See this tail, this is so long, it is difficult for this animal to fly with this long tail. But even though it can fly, it can make it possible. So this effort is the indication that the animal is physiologically fit and it can maintain such an expensive feature. So this is an indication of good gene. So this is a kind of a handicap hypothetical character. So although this tail is not heritable, but this effort of the animal that to maintain this and flying with this is coming from the strength and the ability of the bird. So this is heritable, and the female prefers that kind of good genes. Asymmetry is indicative of developmental instability and possibility of bad genes. So suppose the stakes are not similar or not having symmetry, this gives an indication that this animal is not having the good genes. Whereas symmetry is chosen in some species as an honest signal of having good genes. So my students, what we have learned today? We have learned Bateman's principle, where male selection we have understood limited by some characters. Fisher's runaway model, where we have understood that the survival adaptability is different from the reproductive success adaptability, and together it makes the total fitness. And Fisher's succession hypothesis, there we understood that the female give preference to those males having some good characters which can be passed to the offspring, so that the reproductive success of the offsprings can be ensured. And Zahavi's handicap hypothesis gives the explanation that if there are some extravagant characters, these characters need a very good effort to maintain these characters, and this capacity, ability of the male to maintain such character is a kind of a honest signal that it is having some good genes. That is the criteria of mate selection by the female. So I think you can correlate this hypothesis with the previous lesson, and you have understood how the mate selection takes place in animals. Thank you.